Have you ever been to a place and just wanted to soak up the culture? Or maybe you aspire to visit a place and learn about the food, visit historical places, and just dive into the culture. I know I have. Hi everyone, my name is Christine Navos, and this is the Memories of Mexico. As many of you know, Mexico is located south of the United States. It's its own country, so it's surrounded by many mountains, canyons, and forests. Here, their main language is Spanish. And just like many other origins and many other cultures, Mexico practices their own type of intercultural communication, their values, and their traditions. Let me share them with you. So fortunately, I have gotten to personally visit Mexico twice now, and both times I actually went with my boyfriend, who is also Mexican, and we stayed with his family in Celaya, Guanajuato. And the very first time I met his family was in 2018, and when I first met them at the airport, they came over and they gave me hugs and kisses on the cheek, and it was just such a warm welcoming, and I was in shock because here in America, we're used to handshakes and simple hellos with a little bit of distance because it's your first time meeting someone. But I kind of liked it because it's something similar to my Filipino culture. And now that I think about it, when I was younger, towards my middle school and high school days, we had a lot of friends who were also Hispanic, and their families would have parties and they would do the same thing. They would treat me like their own kid, hug me, kiss me on the cheeks, feed me. There was always a feast going on, and everybody was just kind of doing things together all the time. But with my white friends or my other American friends who grew up here, it was more of an independent thing. So we would come in, we would say hello with a distance, we would eat dinner at the table very quietly, very casually. Because of this, I had to learn code switching. And according to Martin and Nakayama, code switching is a technical term in communication that refers to the phenomenon of changing languages, dialects, or even accents. Now, depending on whose house I went to, I had to practice changing the way I ate, the way I greeted them, and just the way I acted certain times in order to be more respectful of the household and understand the fact that the families came from two different cultures and two different worlds. Last year, we were able to visit the historical downtown of Celaya. And here we were able to see monuments and learn about historical events and even saw historical buildings. Two of the specific ones that caught my attention the most are Catedral de San Francisco and Templo del Carmen. I've been practicing to say those. Catedral de San Francisco was one of the oldest churches in the city, and it was full of golden embroidery on the walls. It was massive, with really tall ceilings because they wanted to replicate the cathedrals in Italy. It was also said that many famous or wealthy people planned their weddings in this cathedral because of its long aisle to the altar and antique physiques. Templo del Carmen, on the other hand, was also really nice, but it was more known for its secret tunnels underground. Outside of the temple, there was a small gated garden with a locked gate that was said to lead down to the basement, which turned into a secret cemetery. It was also said that the old tales of La Llorona took place in this garden. So after a week in Celaya, we went over to Cancun and explored deeper into the histories of Mexico. When we got there, we learned that the Native Americans that found this land were called Mayans. We even visited a theme park called Xcaret, where we were able to swim in Playa del Carmen, which was one of the most famous beaches in Mexico, and even got to snorkel to see the reef. But the most memorable part of Xcaret was the Temazcal, which was a ritual performed by Mayans in order to experience the secret of Mayan purification. As we arrived, they even had a stand in what they called the Circle of Fire ceremony, which was the way they prepared us before going into the Temazcal. During this time, we were not allowed to speak at all. During this time, they had us circle around and they were singing their chants. They were roaming around with incense and fire. While we were in the Temazcal, the Mayan man, which is also known as the Choman, He was calling out to the Mayan spirits, ordering them to cleanse us and purify us from all the anger and hurt and sorrow that we were feeling in our lives or experiencing personally. Once all of this was over, we were all led one by one to jump into this clear, pure water, mineral water kind of pond in order to complete this purification from them. As I was learning about all of these values from the Mexican culture, it made me realize that they really embrace it and acknowledge how important it is to them. And it reminded me of what Joe Navarro said. As humans, we don't seek for perfection, but we seek for psychological comfort. And of course, last but not least is the Mexican traditions. And the one I decided to share with you guys about is how they celebrate Christmas. So the night before, so Christmas Eve, that midnight, which is technically Christmas, they mostly go to a Catholic mass and celebrate the welcoming of Jesus Christ. And then of course, the day of Christmas is when the feast happens. And this is where popular foods get made, such as pozole and ponche and tamales. And this is where all the families come together and celebrate with a reunion. Obviously, I've always been so passionate about the Mexican culture, but mainly because I think it's very similar to my Filipino culture, about how we greet our families, about how we celebrate Christmas, about our history. But if I had any takeaways from this, I plan on visiting other cultures, other countries, and diving more into their culture and being able to experience it just like I did with Mexico. And I hope this inspires you to do the same. Even if it's just a small vacation, take the risk, go out there and enjoy it. Embrace all the cultures because we're not the only ones. Have a good one.